What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise Postgame Show, presented by Sleeper. Today, the Portland Trail Blazers drop the ball, quite literally, as they turn their way over to a massive loss against the Minnesota Timberwolves, committing 25 turnovers. 25 turnovers for your Portland Trail Blazers today in what was a pretty disgusting game. Hopefully you guys are having a good week. I don't know when Eric's going to be joining us. I forget, is today the day he said he was going to be gone? Before the stream, he wasn't here like normal, and I remember he said something on a previous stream, but I don't remember exactly what, so don't know when Eric will be here. But yeah, we're gonna break things down. Might be a quicker show today. I always say that, and then it's usually the longest show in quite some time. Every time I say it's going to be a shorter show, so we'll see today. But this was just an absolutely disgusting game. There's lots to break down in terms of what went wrong for the Blazers today. A couple good performances to talk about, but this team kind of figured out its turnovers, and lately it's gone right back to turning the ball over quite a bit. Now, even in games where they've been playing well, even last game, when they had 49 points in the third quarter and won comfortably against the Philadelphia 76ers, the Blazers still turned over the ball 18 times. Today, it was much worse. 25 turnovers for your Portland Trail Blazers as they get eviscerated by the Timberwolves and by Julius Randle in that fourth quarter. Julius Randle cooks the Blazers. Let me pull up the box score here. But yeah, just a brutal performance. All-Star break can't get here fast enough, which it felt the exact opposite two days ago when the Blazers were off their 3-game win streak. You know, they were finally building some momentum before the All-Star break. Well, that momentum came crashing to a halt. The Blazers with one game left tomorrow against the tanking Utah Jazz. Although I say they're tanking, they're up 166 right now over the tanking Sacramento Kings. A 34-point lead for the Jazz. So maybe that game's not going to be as easy as we might hope. Depends on who they play in the fourth quarter. But, of course, they got Jaren Jackson Jr., Larry Markin, and Yusuf Nurkic having a great year. This is a very important game now tomorrow after this loss tonight for the Blazers to pick up against the Utah Jazz. But as far as this game goes, Julius Randle torched the Blazers. 41 points for the big man. Anthony Edwards was questionable going into this game. He ended up playing, but in 33 minutes only scored 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 for 10 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3. Didn't really attack a whole lot. Didn't really try and impose his will at all in this game. He didn't need to, because you get 21 from Jaden McDaniels to back up Randall's 41 points. You get 12 off the bench from their newest pickup, Ayo Dosunmu, who I've always been a big fan of. He looked good today. Rudy Gobert, 17 points. And the Timberwolves were able to get out and run off the Blazers' turnovers. Before we take a look at the team stats, shout out to Mono Poman with a $3.50 donation. Says we need to start Scoot and give him the ball more. Well, I assume Scoot's still on a minutes restriction because he only played 19 minutes in this game. He was a -1. The Blazers held serve with Scoot in the game. The bench was much more competitive than the starting lineup in this game. Denny Avdia, a -32. He really struggled today. Might have been his worst game of the year. We're going to talk about that. I know there's a lot of people that are victory lapping Denny having a bad game. I saw it before the stream in the live stream chat. People saying crazy stuff such as Scoot's going to be better than him in 2 years, like it's a guaranteed thing, acting like Denny sucks. Yeah, there's just a lot of people out there that are waiting for a game for Denny to struggle, to victory lap and say blasphemous stuff. That's just the way sports talk is on the internet. That's just the way people are. So shout out to you guys who are rooting for Denny to have a rough game today. You got your win in that regard, but the Blazers lose. A big reason why was Denny struggled. This team is much different with Denny playing like himself. He did not play like himself today. He did not play like the type of player who's going to be playing on Sunday in the All-Star game. We'll see if he ends up playing tomorrow. But let's just take a quick look at these ugly team stats. And I always say Blazers need to control the controllables. They need to not beat themselves. On ESPN, on Blazers broadcasting, they had 25 turnovers. On ESPN, they had 26 turnovers. I don't know what it is. Either way, it's a lot. 26 turnovers to 23 assists for the Blazers. They didn't even shoot particularly bad. They shot 36% from three, 43% from the field. I'd like for that to be a little bit better. But there was kind of two themes to this game. One was the turnovers, and one was the inconsistency of the refs in this one. There's just a lot more called for Minnesota. Minnesota was allowed to be more physical defensively against the Portland Trail Blazers than Portland was allowed to be against Minnesota. For whatever reason, this was not a consistently called game. Blazers got called for some ticky-tack stuff that probably is, technically a foul. But on the other end, it felt like Minnesota got away with a lot. I think that is something that slightly contributed to this turnover number. But there's just too many plays with the Blazers turning over the ball above the arc. Too many plays where the Blazers turned over the ball above the arc, just trying to get into their offense. There's too many plays where they would drive, get stuck, and not know where to go with the ball. There's times they would drive and draw a second defender and seemingly have no options available for whatever reason, due to either the way the floor was set up or where the double was coming from, etc. The Minnesota Timberwolves are the 9th best team in adjusted defensive rating. They played a really, really good defensive game in this one. They were flying around. That's what a good defense is supposed to look like. But they were allowed to get away for some physicality, and Portland just had so many sloppy turnovers, they kind of beat themselves in this game. They kind of beat themselves. If they could have had a 10 to 12 turnover game, maybe this is a game, because there's a lot of Minnesota offense that came off these Portland turnovers, especially the turnovers at the top of the arc. Results in 25 fast break points for the Timberwolves to 5 for Portland. Portland was not able to get out in transition at all during this game. Big problem was they were taking the ball out of the net more than half the time. The Timberwolves shoot 51% from the field, but 29 for 35 from the free throw line as well. It's harder to get out and run off of free throws. And when the opposing team's at the free throw line all night, you're probably not going to be able to get out on the break. This team needed to effectively beat the Timberwolves in transition more than they did, especially with how much they struggled taking care of the ball in the half court. To Minnesota's credit, good job getting back in defensive transition. Like I said, really, really good defensive team, but there's a lot of guys in this game that needed to take better care of the ball, and it just simply wasn't the case whatsoever. Let me know what jumped out. I'll read more of your chat comments since Eric, unfortunately, is not here. Scoot's better than Gambler. Drew, the Drew hates a little much. He was super sloppy today, but we'll talk about the players in a second. The Blazers played soft instead of hitting harder. Yeah, I thought this team was kind of soft tonight. Minnesota brought physicality, and Portland was too soft with the ball, just far too soft with the ball. I also thought some of the defensive breakdowns were a bit inexcusable in the half court. I mean, this is still a struggling defensive team. Their off-ball defense is not particularly good. They rotate too late, and then they're sprinting at the three-point line because they're late, and then it's an easy closeout to beat. The faster you're running out of the three-point shooter, the easier you are to beat off the dribble. It's an easier closeout to attack. And the Blazers throughout this game, I thought, were a step slow in their rotations defensively, and it resulted in some plays where there's multiple Timberwolves players just tagging closeouts, getting downhill, forcing Klingon to help at the rim, and they would dump off the ball to Rudy Gobert. He got some free throws off of it. He got 17 points off of it. Especially in that second half, I think the Blazers did a poor job of containing dribble penetration. But there's multiple moments where they're just not in the right position off the ball. The play that stood out the most to me wasn't even a made bucket for the Minnesota Timberwolves, but Dante DiVincenzo was in the corner and Blake Wesley was guarding him, and Blake Wesley literally was 15 feet off him. DiVincenzo was the only offensive player on that side of the floor. The ball was on that side of the floor, though. The ball gets driven to the elbow, and Blake Wesley leaves DiVincenzo in the corner to go try and double at the elbow, and it resulted in an insanely wide open three for DiVincenzo. He missed it. He struggled tonight, but there's still a little bit too much random chaos to what the Blazers are trying to do off the ball. And Blake Wesley's a guy where, people really like his defense because he gets steals, he forces turnovers. He hasn't really forced turnovers since coming back from injury like he did before he got hurt. And there's just moments where he specifically is just a little too out of position, but that affects this whole team. They don't particularly play principled defense off the ball in terms of their positioning. And it gets them in trouble, and it's why they've struggled to guard the three-point line lately. The Timberwolves shoot 41% from three. It feels like a bunch of good teams have had hot three-point shooting nights against the Blazers. We can throw it back to the Phoenix Suns going 14 for 25 from three between Grayson Allen and Colin Gillespie because the Blazers weren't helping on screens. They were playing deep drop. Guys were getting picked off on screens, and Gillespie and Grayson Allen were getting wide open threes. The Blazers have to do a better job protecting the three-point line because teams have been torching them a little bit. And Minnesota doesn't shoot a ton of threes, also just too much dribble penetration. Like, you should not have a problem defending the three-point line and giving up too much dribble penetration. It should be one or the other. You either should be able to get out on guys and force them off the three-point line or force them into tough three-point looks, and maybe you get beat off the dribble. Maybe a team's going down to hill at you because of it, but at least you're running guys off the three-point line. At least you're stopping the opposing team from having a good three-point shooting night. Or if you're worried about the drive and you're closing out short and you're not running guys off the line, yeah, maybe they have a good three-point shooting night, but at least they're not attacking downhill quite as much as they should. It just felt like from the turnovers and Minnesota being able to get out and run, 43 points off turnovers, 43 points off 26 Blazer turnovers is insanely efficient. I don't know if you'll ever see a team score 43 points off of turnovers like this season. That might be a season high. Can somebody check if that's a season high, because that's an absolutely insane number. So you couple that with just some of the half-court defensive issues, and that's how you give up 133 points to a team where their superstar was questionable and he didn't even really do much. Really, really disappointed in this team today. They started playing more disciplined basketball at the start of the year. When they won 10 out of 13 games in January, they were playing discipline. They were taking care of the ball. They were moving the ball. They were getting good shots. I think lately the Blazers have had some stretches with really, really good ball movement, but it's also been accompanied by a bit of sloppiness. And there was possessions today where the Blazers did a good job moving the ball, but they weren't able to get quality shots off of it because Minnesota was scrambling well and playing good defense. There was times where the Blazers maybe should have shot a three and hesitated, or should have attacked a closeout and hesitated. And when you hesitate against this defense, they're going to take that little bit of hesitation and take the time. They'll get set. You can't hesitate with the ball in your hands. Otherwise, the defender's going to get set. The rest of the defense is going to get set, and you're not keeping them scrambling. So just not disciplined play by this Blazer team today, unfortunately. And hopefully tomorrow can be much, much better before going into the All-Star break. Those are the team stats. Tristan says, yes, this was a season high. Before that, it was the Magic who scored 39 points February 9th. Is season high for the season high for the entire league. Yeah, it must be, because we didn't play the Magic on February 9th. Season high for the entire league. Not only did you turn over the ball way too much, but you also didn't do anything defensively when you turned over the ball. They got to fix the turnovers, man. I thought they did at the start of the year, and then they get guards back, and it's just too many sloppy turnovers, unforced turnovers. I understand it. There were some possessions where it felt like Minnesota was being very physical and could have been called for a foul, and the Blazers struggled a little bit with that. We're a little soft in that regard and turned over the ball because of it. I think you can put a little bit of it on the refs not calling probably as much as they should on Minnesota, but at some point, you got to just man up, be strong with the ball, and not turn it over. I'm tired of those issues plaguing this team. I thought we were past this. let's jump into the box score. And I'll just go down the line in terms of the performances today. The high scorer of the game was Drew Holiday. He had 23 points in 30 minutes, but he shot 22 times. Didn't get to the free throw line. 9 for 22 from the field, 5 for 11 from 3. He had 5 assists, but 6 turnovers. He's the leading scorer of this game, but it wasn't a good Drew Holiday game. It was not a good Drew Holiday game. Just feels like he's not having as much of a defensive impact as I hoped he would. We've talked about that, but offensively, he has to take better care of the ball. He's had some struggles initiating offense this year and just having silly turnovers. He had that one in the first half where he drove and then turned around and tried to throw it out to a Blazer, and he threw it in between two guys. Grant was moving. Just kind of a silly overall turnover. I'm actually going to, while I talk about these guys, I'm actually going to replay some of these turnovers as we go here, just to really see if NBA.com will let me. We'll see. But yeah, just a lot of Holiday's turnovers are just kind of him playing casual. I've seen tweets calling out his basketball IQ. I mean, this is a guy who played point guard for a championship-winning team. He's 36. Yes, he's declining, but he's a smart player. I just think he gets in trouble sometimes being a little too casual. And he had multiple turnovers in this game where he was a little casual. Now, he had that one, he threw it up to Tamani, and they just held his arm, so Tamani couldn't go get the ball, and the refs didn't call it. Like I said, the refs were absolutely brutal in this game. So there's always turnovers. You can look at it where it's maybe not a player's fault. But he had a couple passes to Blazers where he's inside the arc, kicking back out to somebody who's moving, and he's just throwing it behind him as they're rotating around the arc. So just kind of silly stuff. He had that turnover where he's bringing up the ball and pitched it back to Denny, and it was an over and back. It's just like lack of mental focus type of turnovers from Drew. He had the one he threw. I'm going through him right now. He had the one he threw 10 feet above Blake Wesley's head. It's just kind of strange because this is a guy that, you know, he's had his moments in the past, but he's never been this bad taking care of the ball. He's never been this much of a turnover-prone player. And he makes some really nice passes and sets players up in a good way as a passer. But a lot of his turnovers in this game wasn't from him, like, you know, trying to thread the needle to a big in traffic. It was a lot of unforced turnovers. There was 3 of them. He just threw the ball out of bounds because he had a very inaccurate pass. There was the one he just pitches back for an over and back call. Just completely unforced turnovers from Drew Holiday. You look at the last 2 years, his 2 years in Boston, where he was playing more of an off-ball role, but he had 1.8 turnovers and 1.2 turnovers respectively. Now this year, he's averaging 6.5 assists, 2.5 turnovers, so still has a pretty good assist-to-turnover ratio. That's about 2.5 to 1. So it's not like this has been a problem that's necessarily plagued him all season long, but I feel like lately he's had some struggles. If we go to the game log, he had 6 turnovers today. He had 3 turnovers last game, 3 turnovers the game before, 1 the game before that, and 5 the game before that. So the month of February, he's been a bit more turnover prone. You go back to the last game of January, he had 4 turnovers with 4 assists. So for whatever reason, the last 6 games, he has become more turnover prone. He's been a little bit more sloppy. I think it partially coincides with the offense being more turnover prone as well, because this is your point guard. This is your guy that's supposed to take care of the ball, get the offense running, and he's making too many silly mistakes. Too many silly mistakes. I don't think it's an IQ thing. I don't think it's him being washed thing. I don't think there is an explanation. He just has to be sharper with the ball and pass the ball to a teammate instead of a fan in the first row. and just be mentally sharper, mentally more focused, because it's just mental mistakes that he's making. He did get hot there in the first half, hit some threes, and kind of kept the Blazers within shouting distance. A good three-point shooting night from him, which was good to see, which was needed. Not a good game attacking inside the arc. He was 4 for 11 inside the arc, didn't get to the free throw line. Had those turnovers where he got into the paint and tried to kick the ball out and just missed his mark. So not a good overall game from him, but I do think it's funny to me. There seems to be a lot of people that have no appreciation for anything he does. There's a lot of players on this team who are turnover prone. There's players on this team who average more turnovers and less assists than Drew Holiday that have massive turnover problems as well. Yes, turnovers have been a problem for Drew lately, especially in this game with 6, but he's 5 for 11 from 3. You trust that he's going to figure it out in terms of just finding ways to take care of the ball a little bit better than this, because this is more so a recent thing with him. 5 for 11 from 3, though. Like, his 3-point shooting was needed in this game. The rest of the team, 11 for 34. That's like 32%. Not particularly good. So he was the one guy that knocked down some threes today. Donovan Clingan also 2 for 4. Nice to see him shooting the 3-ball well again. Let's get into the second highest scorer in the starting lineup, which actually is Deni Avdija. It is Deni Avdija, but he has 11 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 turnovers. So Drew had 6, Deni had 5. Not good. 3 for 14 from the field, 0 for 7 from 3, 5 for 5 from the free throw line. So one thing I noticed in this game, let's start with the 3-point shooting, because he really struggled last game and he's 0 for 7 today. To me, he's shooting the ball a little bit later, is what I've noticed with his jumper. Like almost on the way down. And if you've noticed, he's been missing a lot of shots short. And releasing the ball a little bit later than usual will result in you missing short. Right? The earlier in your uppers motion, the earlier in your jump that you release the ball, the more power you have on it because you have more upward momentum at the start of your jump, right? That slows down at the peak of your jump and then you start going down. Right? And Deni has been a guy that kind of shoots the ball on the way up, like a little bit before the peak of his jump. Today, it seemed like he was shooting the ball at the peak of his jump or a little bit after the peak of his jump. I don't know what exactly the back injury is contributing to that, but the rhythm of his 3-point shot looked off, and he's missing a lot of threes short. And I think it's due to him not having the proper rhythm on his 3-point jumper. He's 3 for 7 inside the arc. Missed a couple shots, had a couple tough lanes he tried to finish around Gobert, but that's a former Defensive Player of the Year winner, a multi-time Defensive Player of the Year winner. They made it a little tough on Deni, and then also there was multiple plays, man, where Deni, I thought, was getting fouled, and they weren't giving him the call. This was a game where he should have had 10-plus free throws, and he only had 5. So that's the scoring issues for him today. I think a lot of people will make it out about the back. I don't think it's necessarily the back. I think, if he was 0 for 7, like I could see him go, if he goes 0 for 7, having a type of game like this even before the back injury. The thing is, he never really went 0 for 7 from 3. So I think the 3-point shooting is the big question. And then also him not getting calls. Like that's obviously going to hurt his game as a physical driver. But outside of that, the turnovers. Let's see if NBA.com lets me watch them here. Lots of turnovers at the top of the arc for Deni, just initiating offense, which before getting Drew and Scoop back, the Blazers went on a stretch where they were winning some games with Deni playing point guard and taking care of the ball, and he was just playing sharp. And he's always been a little bit turnover prone, but he has a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio on the year. Like he went on a tear there where he was throwing some dimes. He had 8 assists last game, 1 turnover. So I'm not too worried about this. He's still averaging 6.7 assists per game, 3.8 turnovers. I think the next step in his growth will be figuring out how to be as effective as he's been offensively while cutting down on the turnovers that he does commit. Throughout the season, he's had a lot of turnovers from driving into traffic because he leads the league in drives per game and trying to make plays, and those turnovers I'm cool with. I think it's a product of a team that is one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league, doesn't have much spacing, there's a lot of traffic down there, and him being the only guy for a large stretch this season who's capable of making a play for himself and others. But today, it wasn't that type of turnover. The first one was a turnover at the top of the arc. The second one, he just got the ball back tipped by Naz Reid. That was a play that they challenged. And that was a play where he missed a three. The ball got tipped back out to him, and he kind of hesitated. Didn't do a good enough job of shielding the ball. Third one was just him pushing in transition against Jalen McDaniels and losing his dribble. Right. Fourth one, he drove, got stuck, tried to kick it back out to the three-point line, threw it to nobody, threw it out of bounds. There's 4 turnovers that I've counted between Drew and Denny where they just drive, get stuck, and then try and kick it out and throw it to nobody. That's 4 of the 11 turnovers. And part of that's credit to Minnesota's defense, but part of that is isn't somebody supposed to cut when these guys drive? That's the motion offense. That is the motion offense. And there was multiple plays throughout this game where somebody drives and nobody's cutting. Somebody drives and nobody's cutting. Like there's players turning and running at the ball, or there's players turning their heads, and yeah, I guess you have players open from 3, but the whole idea of the offense is somebody's supposed to cut. So there's a couple times in this game where a Blazer drove and then seemed like they expected somebody to cut and there was nobody there and they got stuck, whether it was, a jump pass turnover like Denny had at the end of the first half or Drew trying to throw the ball back out. They were not good enough cutting off the ball in this game. They kind of played lazy, and you wonder if after last game where they make 22 threes and they make every 3, if that leads to them spotting up a little bit more in this game and not cutting as much because they hit a bunch of threes last game. This team can't get complacent off the ball offensively because they make a bunch of threes. They have to continue to cut. Somebody has to continue to cut. That's the principles of this motion offense. So I thought today they did not do a good enough job of that. And then Denny's 5th turnover, he had the ball at the top of the arc and dribbled, and Naz Reid was defending one pass away, stunned at the ball, got a hand on it. Denny lost it. That was a play where Denny normally does the low kill pickup. We haven't really seen that. We haven't really seen that lately, I feel like. At least we didn't see it in this game. So a little too sloppy with the ball, and it was not his normal type of turnovers where he's trying to make a play and gets into a tough spot, which is, I think, more acceptable. It was being too loose with the ball up top, but it's a problem that's plagued him this season, but it's a product of all the good he's done this season. I think moving forward, that's an area for him to focus on improving and focus on trying to just take better care of the ball. Because the ball's going to be in his hands a lot, regardless of who's on the floor, because of how good of a player he is. Got to take better care of the ball. Anyway. I'll read some takes. Anyone else's stream glitching out? I don't think so. I hope not. Give me your take on Denny. We got one in chat. Denny signed out with 9:37 left in the 4th like a true leader. Don't really understand what that comment means. He got subbed out of the game. Is that a shot on his leadership? Don't really understand. Doesn't really make sense. We just didn't click tonight. Got our butt kicked. It happens. This type of team, I don't know what it is with the Timberwolves. It just feels like the Blazers don't match up well with them. It just feels like they kind of have the Blazers number. It's the same way with the Suns right now. I don't know if there's similarities in the Timberwolves and the Suns that give the Blazers fits. But, opening night, they lose to the Timberwolves, and then they get blown out today. I think it's something about teams playing defense, being physical, pressuring on the perimeter in an effective way that gives the Blazers fits, which would make sense. Denny needs to lead this team when Dame is hurt. Denny has led this team all year. He's led this team all year. I don't really understand. I don't really understand that critique. He's led G League players to wins this year. I don't really know how you can act like he hasn't led this team this year. Leaders have bad games too. Dame's had bad games too. Denny's coming back from an injury. He's probably not 100%. They were being physical with him in this game. He didn't have his rhythm on his three-point ball. Like, this was just a really rough game for him. But that's fine. If he was having this type of game, if he was turning over the ball like this every single game without creating for others, then yeah, I would criticize the living hell out of it. But it's not a typical Denny game. So it's just one of those games where, yeah, you kind of look at the film, look at where he could be better, and then move on. Jaden McDaniels is a terrific defender. He's a terrific defender. He did a really good job defending Denny tonight, and Denny also didn't get the benefit of the whistle. The Blazers, as a team, didn't get the benefit of the whistle. There's a lot that went into this being a rough game for Denny Avdia. It's nothing to criticize his leadership about when he's led this team all year long. Tristan says, so tired of all the player stands / haters on this team, so much more than usual. Yeah, man. Yeah. For whatever reason this season, I agree. Can we compare Rasheed Wallace with Denny? Okay, at this point, I'm just convinced you're trolling. Moving on. Jeremy Grant, 10 points, 4 for 11 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. He has not shot the ball particularly well since coming back from injury outside of a couple of games. Doesn't really feel like the most consistent player. I mean, he's shooting above 40% from 3 this month, but in January, he returned January 15th, and he shot 26% from 3. So, he had a nice little hot stretch there. He had that 6 for 10 from 3 game against Memphis. But as I kind of look at the box score against the better defensive teams, he hasn't had a consistent enough impact offensively. Against physical teams, it feels like Jeremy kind of struggles. And that's the problem with this team is when they can defend the Blazers physically, like they're allowed to be physical and bump drivers, and the Blazers struggle with that type of team. That feels like an Achilles heel for this Blazer team, is defenses that play physical defense. Here's the thing. In the playoffs, you're allowed to be more physical, and you're going to play teams that play physical defense, that play good defense. You have to figure out ways to score. There's players on this team that need to do a better job against physicality. Jeremy Grant hasn't been a playoff player once in his career as a guy with the offensive responsibility that he has right now. He was an offensive player he was a playoff guy when he was a 3-and-D player with Denver, with OKC, but not somebody creating this much off the dribble. And he's somebody that he's very talented, but he's not particularly good with physicality. I mean, even when you look at the defensive side of the ball and he gets screened, the way he crumples when he gets screened on the ball, and offensively, just not a particularly good game. He only gets to the line twice, misses a free throw. He goes 3 for 7 inside the arc. To his credit, he didn't have a turnover. So maybe I'm being a little too critical of him, because he was the one guy who didn't turn over the ball today. But there's just too many players on this team that, yeah, to David Hughes' point, he says Grant, especially when he drives, he looks for the foul call, not trying to score. That's extremely detrimental when he's not that physical. Yeah, when the refs are swallowing their whistle and the defense is being physical, you can't just drive to try and draw fouls. It's a losing battle. You got to try and drive to score. And you got to force the defense to either stop you or be so physical with you that they do foul you. And sometimes I think the Blazers get a little too caught up in trying to draw ticky-tack fouls when refs aren't calling them and defenses are playing physical and they're allowed to get away with it. And it completely kills the Blazers' offense. I mean, Denny at times has that issue. Denny at times has that issue. Sharp has that issue. We see him fall over when he drives if there's a bump. I mean, even if there's not a bump, he falls over when he drives. Doesn't get a lot of calls around the rim for whatever reason. There's too many guys on this team that don't handle defensive physicality and defensive pressure well. Sorry, let me get into if you ever come in here and say relocate the team, you're getting insta-banned, all right? Like, you're just straight up going to get insta-banned. So just fair warning. Especially if you joined 5 days ago. Especially if you just made your account 5 days ago. All right. Tamani Kamara, 9 points. In 32 minutes, he's 3 for 5 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3. Headband Tamani's the best shooter in the league. Tom Haberstroh will make sure you know that. Kind of disappointing we couldn't get him more shots. The one shot he had inside the arc and one was a really nice Euro step. A really, really nice Euro step to his offhand. He's had some really impressive drives the past month or so. This is the same guy who had 30 points last game. He has 9 today. Because nobody could play make. Nobody could read the floor today. Tamani's not going to shoot a bunch of his own threes off the dribble or anything, and maybe it was a game plan thing by Minnesota as well, because Tamani's been shooting the three ball really, really well. But would have liked for him to get more shots in this game. Defensively, wish he. He's not like the type of guy you want to match up against Julius Randle. Julius Randle's just so big, so strong. Even a good defender like Tamani could struggle with him. But, Tamani was on Anthony Edwards this game, and Anthony Edwards didn't do much. But you got to have somebody step up and actually guard Julius Randle. Can't get cooked by Julius Randle the way they got cooked by Julius Randle today. And then Donovan Clingan, 8 points, 3 for 7 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, 9 rebounds. 5 of them offensive, had 2 blocks, was 2 for 4 from 3. Fine game from Clingan. I mean, the 3-point shot seems to be back. He's shooting almost 50% in February. So let's just hope January was the outlier because he shot 52% in December. And the other thing that really disappoints me about this game is he was bringing Gobert out of the paint. He was bringing Gobert out of the paint, and the Blazers didn't seem to have an idea of how to take advantage of that. That's the problem. When Clingan has the ball at the top of the arc, he's a legitimate shooter. He can pass, and he's bringing an elite rim protector, former defensive player of the year, out of the paint to the three-point line. The other 4 guys on the team have to figure out a way to take advantage of that. And most of the times, the way you take advantage of that, you set a pin down and you have somebody curling off of it towards the elbow, going downhill towards the rim, because Gobert is above the three-point line. You move, you screen, you cut across, whatever it may be. Even if Clingan has the ball and swings it, you want to be ready to catch that and attack if you don't have a three-point shot. If the defender's out on you too far, you got to make quick decisions. Gobert's at the three-point line because Donovan Clingan's hitting threes. Clingan swings it. It should be an immediate attack. It shouldn't be Clingan swings it, the guy catches the ball, kind of stares at his defender, and then Gobert has time to sink into the paint and then disrupt whatever happens. I thought the Blazers did a really, really poor job today of taking advantage of Donovan Clingan's three-point shooting, bringing Rudy Gobert out of the paint. If Donovan Clingan can shoot the ball like this, the Blazers coaching staff, whoever it might be, needs to take advantage of it. You start seeing Gobert step out there, you need to coach your team in a way where they're ready to take advantage of that. But the whole offense today just seemed to not have a plan. There was no structure. It was kind of chaotic. It looked like rat ball. Rat ball meaning basically you're not in a set. You're just kind of making stuff up as you go. In the motion, offense has principles, but like I said earlier, they weren't cutting on a lot of drives, which they're supposed to as part of this motion offense. So they weren't even doing a good job of executing the principles of their motion offense. Their motion offense being something that's not a set play. It's kind of just rules based on, if the ball's driven, somebody cuts. There's kind of loose rules, and they weren't even doing those properly. So it just looked like the type of basketball you'd find at LA Fitness against a defense that was playing great defense today and against a defense that was allowed to be physical by the referees. That's not going to work. That's how you turn over the ball 26 times. Some of it's your own doing too with sloppiness, but just the lack of a plan offensively in this game was absolutely brutal. Sometimes when you're playing against a team like the Sixers who are playing with no energy and playing garbage defense, you don't have to be in a set play. You can zip the ball around and make a bunch of threes and score 49 points in a quarter. But at some point, there has to be a better balance, especially when you're playing against a physical defense like this. I think the type of offense the Blazers run really, really hurts themselves when they play against a physical defense like this. Scoot Henderson off the bench, 18 points in 19 minutes. 5 for 8 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, 5 for 5 from the free throw line. He has 4 rebounds, 2 assists. He did have 5 turnovers. But this was the bright spot of today's game. One of the two. There's another guy off the bench that was also a bright spot in today's game. But man was Scoot impressive today. He was the only guy that efficiently scored against this defense. Everybody else struggled. He kind of got off to a slow start, missed a couple shots at the start of this game, then knocked down a 3 at the end of the first. He's playing with confidence despite this being only his 3rd game back. Had that play that was a goaltending. That was 2 of the Blazers' 5 fast break points was Scoot Henderson just driving the ball down the middle of the floor and getting to the rim. This team just looked better with him in the game. Even with the 5 turnovers, like he's a dribble drive threat. He was basically the only guy that could consistently win at the point of attack today. It's probably a little bit of an over exaggeration, but third shot he made, 3-pointer. He's 3 for 5 from 3. Good to see him knock down threes. He was 2 for 10. His first 2 games, but had a nice corner 3. His shot looks good right now. His shot looks really good right now. Had that nice drive against Anthony Edwards with the reverse layup. Maybe it wasn't an over-exaggeration. He beat Anthony Edwards at the point of attack, had that nice reverse. And then his last 3 was one that I really appreciated because if you remember his rookie season, his sophomore season, I talked about how his rhythm dribbling left into his pull-up 3 was off. Like he'd kind of hop into it or chop his feet too much. And I talked about how he just needs to run right into it, plant right, left, and shoot the 3, especially on the pick and roll when defenders don't respect the 3-point shot, especially when they go under the screen or get caught up on the screen. That last 3 was perfect textbook footwork, exactly what I've talked about in the past. Defender got caught up on the screen. He came off of it, planted right, left, really, really good rhythm getting into his jumper, and it was nothing but net. If he can start making that shot consistently, it unlocks another level to him as a pick-and-roll player. Because when teams run drop and the defender doesn't get through the screen, that's the shot you have. And if you can knock down that shot consistently, you can torture teams that run drop. Just like the Blazers were tortured running drop against Colin Gillespie and Grayson Allen. So nice to see him knock down some threes today. A low assist game for him. High turnover game. I'll look at his turnovers right now. I expect him to be a bit turnover prone until he kind of gets his wind, but this is something that he needs to improve upon a little bit more. Like, he had that spin move into that bad jump pass at the start of this game, right when he subbed in the game. That's a play where he just needs to not jump. He needs to spin move. Like, if the dump off's not there, pump fake. There's just nuanced stuff that he still needs to figure out. Had that play where he tried to go between the legs and dribbled it off his own foot. Like, just that's the thing with a lot of these turnovers, just completely unforced turnovers. The Blazers being a bit too sped up against this defense. Another play where he tried to throw the flare to Drew and was picked off by Anthony Edwards. Just didn't throw that pass high enough. Just a lot of turnovers above the arc in this game. That was kind of the theme in this game. He had that turnover in the backcourt trying to bring the ball up against Jaden McDaniels, who tortured the Blazers all game. And then had that one where he drove, got shoved out of bounds by Julius Randle, and they don't call a foul. Which, it was just the epitome of this game. Blazers turn over the ball after getting shoved out of bounds, and they don't call a foul. But Scoot looks really encouraging. He got to the line 5 times in this game as well after shooting 10 free throws last game. Got fouled on a 3, got fouled on a drive. Really, really nice to see him get to the free throw line. But I'm telling you guys, for all you people that wanted to write off Scoot Henderson, wanted to trade him for peanuts, called him a bust, y'all got to be a little bit more patient. He just turned 22 years old. I think he just turned 22. Yeah, he just turned 22. He's still very young. I expected a year 3 leap out of him, just like we got a year 2 leap out of him. He's somebody that works his ass off, works extremely hard, has good traits, good feel for the game in terms of his passing ability. Still kind of learning how to make an impact as a scorer. I think a lot of it rests in him being able to knock down threes. If he can knock down threes, then he can get downhill. But y'all got to be patient with him, man. Y'all got to be patient with him. 19 minutes, scored 18 points. This coming off the back of last game, where in 20 minutes he had 12.7 assists. Things are looking up for Scoot. I can't wait for him to get off a minutes restriction. At this point, we've had conversations about, what guard do the Blazers trade? They have Dame coming back next year. They have Drew. They have Sharp. They have Scoot. I think you got to continue to be patient with Scoot. I don't think he has as much value on the trade market as he should, or, he has more upside to this team long term than he does have trade value right now. So trading him right now or this offseason could be selling low. Maybe he goes on a tear and a team really wants to buy into it. Maybe that changes the equation, but I still believe in Scoot's long-term outlook. The ability to pass, the improvements he made from year 1 to year 2. And then he looks very, very solid right now. He didn't have the first 2 games, he wasn't the most efficient player, but had 16 assists to 7 turnovers in 41 minutes, was throwing dimes all over the place. Today, not a high assist game, but scores the ball efficiently. I think there's a point in time coming, I don't know how soon it's going to happen, where he consistently puts it together from a playmaking and a scoring standpoint, and he'll pop. Now, does he need to start? Does he need to play 35 minutes for that? It's a pop, 30, 35 minutes. I don't know. I've always been a proponent of him starting, and I think rest of season, I don't hate the idea of starting him and bringing Drew off the bench. I mean, once he's off the minutes restriction, I probably would go with that, to be honest. Drew might not like it, but is what it is. I just feel like there's a storm coming, I feel like there's a storm coming with Scoot. You guys know me. I've always believed in him as a player. Gabe says Suns lost by almost the exact same score to OKC. At least it was against OKC, although they didn't have SGA or Chet, right? So maybe not. Rough night, Gabe. Max says we should trade Klingon before it's too late and value drops. Too many fans praise him and he continues to play bad almost every game. I would rather have Rudy, LOL. How did he didn't play particularly bad this game, and lately he's been good? What are you talking about? What? That's quite the take, man. He's a year too big. Bigs take time to develop. You don't trade a year too big who's literally 21 years old right now because we have to trade him before it's too late. Especially a guy that's showing the signs of offensive improvement we've been asking for. He had a rough stretch there in January. Lately, he's been very, very good. Last game, he had 15.7 boards, 4 blocks, was 6 for 10 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3. The game before that, he had 20 points, 19 boards, was 8 for 15 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3. The game before that, he was 6 for 10, had 13 points, 17 boards. I mean, he's been good pretty much all month. I don't really understand that take at all. Ken says, I think Denny and Shea are our future. Shea and Denny will be all-stars together next year. Yeah, I can't disagree more. I like Sharp, but I don't think Shaedon Sharp's going to be an all-star next year. And if I'm going to sit here and say, oh, he's going to be an all-star next year, then I might as well say Benedict Matherin's also going to be an all-star next year in LA as he gets more responsibility. Like, Shea can score. He still hasn't become an efficient scorer. His efficiency has been closer to average this year. He has okay efficiency as a volume scorer, and he's done some his off-ball defense has been better this year. His effort's been better this year. But in order to be an all-star as a guard or a wing, you have to have a level of playmaking for others that Shea just doesn't seem to possess. It just doesn't seem to possess. There hasn't been enough signs of growth there for me to be confident that it's going to all of a sudden change next year when there's more players on the team that demand the ball more. If anything, next year, if this team's trying to win, Shaedon should be a little bit more of an off-ball threat. And that's not going to be conducive for him becoming a star. And that's not conducive to the narrative that, like, he's the number 2 guy. He might be the number 2 scorer, but he's not the number 2 guy in terms of having the ball in his hands next year. I mean, you got Dame and Denny, so is he the number 2 next year? Tori's an expert Shea down player. I don't know what that means. But if you disagree, let me know what you disagree with. I think I've been very fair to Shea. A lot of people think I haven't been, but I think I've been very fair to Shea. Everything I critique of him is a legitimate flaw of his game. And it's backed up statistically. Like, he averages more turnovers than assists. I know we'd all love to convince ourselves that he's a star, but it's not the reality. I personally like players that know how to read the game and try and make the right play. That's why I'm a big Denny fan. That's why I'm a fan of Scoot as well. Because I prefer those types of players. I think they're more conducive to winning basketball games. Trevin says Tori just said he doesn't like Sharp. I don't like Sharp's decision making in some of his turnovers. So, if you want to listen to nuance, that's nuance. Do I like his scoring? Sure. I love his scoring at the rim. I love that he's been a better three-point shooter this year. His off-ball defense has been better this year. I love that he's playing hard on that end, playing harder than he ever has. There's multiple things I do like about Sharp's game. And I love his athleticism. I think he can be a huge off-ball threat for this team as an athlete. Talked about how I like him coming off curls. So, if you actually listen to what I say, Trevin, there's multiple things I like. There's multiple things that aren't improving the way they should, that I don't like, that drive me kind of crazy. That's the reality of it. But I think Shea is the perfect type of player for a particular role that he hasn't been playing this year, where maybe the scoring's a little bit down, but he's an off-ball threat. Marv says, but you're so hung up on everything he doesn't do. That's because of the stuff that he struggles with. When we're going to have conversations about him being a star or not, the stuff that he struggles with is the separator between him being a star or not. So it is the conversation if we're going to start having the conversation about, can Shea take that leap to stardom? Can he be a star next year? Yeah, so when that's the conversation, the stuff that's stopping him from being that immediately becomes a conversation. Absolutely. The conversation is, can Shea be the eighth man on a team? I'd sit here and say, look at all the things he's capable of doing. Obviously, he can be the eighth man. But we're talking about having a high standard for him, of him trying to take that leap to stardom. So that's the conversation. Max Way says, I don't trust Klingon versus elite centers in the playoffs. I know he's going to get cooked and it's going to cost us games. Y'all just don't want to believe it. SMH. He's 21. He's in his second year. He improved from last season to this season. And bigs take time. We use age excuse for Shaden, though. Shaden's in year 4. Shaden's 22. Also, I just said bigs take time. Shaden can improve upon his playmaking and reading defenses, but this year he hasn't. Like the last 3 years, I feel like he hasn't. It's a different conversation. Klingon hasn't even been in the league for 3 years. So that's the thing. If we're going to sit here and be like, oh, this guy's 20, 21, 22, okay, he should be improving at the playmaking stuff. He's going to improve at the playmaking stuff. Maybe it's something where he doesn't improve for 3 years and then all of a sudden figures it out in year 5 or year 6. That's happened with other players before, too. I'm not ruling it out. But he struggles with it. I talk about how he struggles with it and how he needs to improve it if he wants to take that leap. That is very valid. Compared to somebody coming in here and saying, Klingon will struggle against bigs in the playoffs. We haven't seen that. That's a complete hypothetical theory that isn't actually based on anything that's actually happening or real. That's the difference in the conversation. So, but yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about how he's one-dimensional with drop scheme, sure, but also, let's see him fail running some other schemes. It's not even like we see him doing other schemes and him failing. And I know the counter argument is, oh, well, you can't run other schemes with Klingon. That's why they don't. They run a ton of drop with Robert Williams in the game. They like running drop. It's a big part of their defensive philosophy. So people say Klingon can't guard guards on the perimeter when he switched out on him, but then I'll watch him block a Steph Curry 3. Like, I feel like people have all these narratives about Klingon that aren't really based on anything that they've seen in games. Probably the outlier of that block. There's other examples. There's other examples. Here's the thing. People get so focused on like, oh, this 7-2 big is slow. That means he can't defend the perimeter. But when you're 7-2 with a 7-7 wingspan or whatever it is, you don't have to get out as far on the perimeter to defend a perimeter player. Right? You can play with more of a gap. So there's a balance there. If you're able to play with more of a gap, you don't have to be as quick to stop a guy at the rim. And when you're that lengthy, you can play with a bit of a gap, still defend the three-point line, and then it might take 2 steps to meet the guy at the rim for Klingon. He's that big. So yeah, like we've seen teams have success with drop bigs. The thing is, you got to be able to get over screens. And I think you got to switch it up a little bit more. Brook Lopez won a championship as a drop big in Milwaukee. Why? Because Drew Holiday fought over screens. Got through screens. Chris Middleton got through screens. You also had Giannis there. So I will take a elite rim protector who can knock down threes, pass the ball, and rebounds like a madman. And I will appreciate that. Makes the right play. Sets good screens. I don't know if I said that. But, like, does little things. Plays with an edge. He's only 21. That's the type of player you give some time to develop as a big. Especially if we start to tap into his playmaking in terms of the stuff that we run. Yeah, that's... Some of the Klingon narratives are a bit wild to me. Like... Shao Perilous says, I'm amazed. Young played 5 minutes, only had 1 foul and no turnovers. Yeah, it had a putback dunk. Oh, maybe, especially, I don't know. I'm getting lost in conversations in chat. Kind of confusing me. Anyway, let's discuss Vit Krejci. So, he's had to shoot some tough threes here. That wasn't supposed to be the thing. The thing is, oh, we have all these wide open threes we get players. Imagine when it's Vit Krejci. Some of that is, okay, he's actually spacing the floor. Some of that is, he shouldn't have to shoot such tough threes, but he's 3 for 6 from 3 today. He was 3 for 6 from 3 today. Hit that 3 in transition, which was nice. 17 points in 19 minutes in this one. Why is he not playing more? Why is he not playing more? You're an awful three-point shooting team that runs a system that's dependent upon being able to knock down threes. And you got this elite 6'8" three-point shooter that can also do a little bit off the dribble and pass a little bit and hasn't been an issue defensively for the most part. And you're only playing him 19 minutes. The thing is, he played in garbage time. He played in garbage time. Why is he not playing more? It doesn't make sense to me. You struggle offensively all game long, but you're going to play Blake Wesley 24 minutes? You're going to play him more minutes than Vit Krejci. Vit Krejci's an offensive firework. He can have games where he can take over a game with his shooting. He had 17 points in 20 minutes. Had 4 shots inside of the arc. I had a nice little, I don't know what you want to call it, like kind of mid-range, fading 8-footer in the first half on a drive. Ball doesn't stick to him. Like, I don't really understand his minutes so far. Sure, a lot of his points were kind of at the end of this game, but I mean, he showed you what he's been doing in real game action all year long. Hit that nice mid-range jumper, and this is against rotation players for the Timberwolves. By the way, I mean, even at the end of this game with 2:30 left, had that really nice backhand layup. Like, he has some sauce to his game, man. Nice to see him knock down some shots today. He needs to be playing more. Why is City not playing? Because he only has one game left on his two-way contract where he's allowed to play for an NBA team, and they were saving it for tomorrow. Because tomorrow, like, Denny probably won't play. Like, who knows who's going to play on the second night of a back-to-back with all the minutes restrictions and injuries that the Blazers have been fighting their way back from. City's not a two-way. It's reported he was getting signed. When did it get reported he was getting signed? They literally talked about it on the broadcast, how it was literally tweeted today that he was inactive today because he's on a two-way contract. Who'd they cut? Like, did I miss some news? Come on, Kirk. Come on, Ben. So he'll play next game, and then they'll figure it out over the All-Star break, whether that's cutting repair. Probably cutting repair and then putting City on a main roster contract. I don't think they need to put Caleb Love on a main roster contract. He's not playing right now. And this is with Scoot on a minutes restriction. Once Scoot's off a minutes restriction, you have Blake Wesley, and you have Drew Holiday, and you have Denny, you have Sharp back. Like, there's no spot for Caleb Love. So I don't think they have to make him a main NBA player this year. Now, maybe you could lose him in the offseason then. I don't know how that'd go down. But yeah, Vic Krejci needs to play more. Does everybody agree with that? I feel like most of the fan base will agree with that. Repair was getting some run in this game, dude. Why? Tiago's rotations were an issue early in the season. Then he had so many players injured. It's like, what can he do in terms of who he has to play? Like, his lineups are kind of dependent on who he just has available. But now he has more guys back, and it's like, why does Ryan Repair need to play 10 minutes? 5 of those minutes were garbage time, I guess. But, like, those 5 minutes should be going to Krejci. Once in a blue moon, Ryan Repair can do something in a game. Krejci should be playing right now at least 25 minutes a game. You need his shooting out there on the floor. Makes no sense not to play him more. If this continues, I'm going to have some epic rants about this. I wouldn't hate starting Krejci so we can try and get off to a better start offensively. Because in this game, the Blazers once again got off to a horrible start offensively. The Blazers had 5 points in the first 4 minutes on offense. They had 9 points in the first 7 minutes. There was 5:08. No, actually, it was 4:54 when they finally got past 9 points. 4:54 left in the first quarter. This team is prone to getting off to some terrible starts offensively. Why don't you bring Jeremy Grant off the bench and start Vic Krejci? I don't understand. Anyway. Robert Williams, 5 points, 2 for 3 from the field, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks in 12 minutes. Barely played. Couple nice blocks, though. Had an impact when he was in the game. not much more to say. Blake Wesley, 4 points in 24 minutes. He did have 6 assists, 2 turnovers, so that was nice. I mean, had some nice plays, had a nice and one layup, but the 3-point shooting, I know he hit a couple threes since coming back, but 0 for 2 from 3, just on a team that needs some spacing, his 3-point shooting hurts, especially as you get more ball handlers back in the lineup. His ball handling is not as necessary. You need guys that can knock down shots. Imagine if those minutes were going to a shooter that could get hot from 3 in this game. You had 6 assists, 2 turnovers, but when you have Scoot, when you have Drew, when you have Denny, as long as they're taking care of the freaking ball, and you got Krejci who can make a play here and there, Kling can make a play, can pass here and there. You're not really playing Blake Wesley a whole lot for his playmaking. You're playing him more for his energy and his defense and him being able to slash and get a couple buckets at the rim. But that's not really the best type of player to put around those guys that I just named. If you could make threes at a consistent rate, then yeah, as a guy that can make threes off those guys, catch and shoot, and then attack a closeout, sure. But just has never been that caliber of 3-point shooter. So, he was 1 for 1 his first game back from 3. He was 2 for 4 the game after that, 0 for 1, 2 for 3. Didn't shoot a 3 last game, that was 0 for 2 today. So, he's knocked down 5 threes since coming back. But I don't trust it. Super small sample. Super small sample. And defenses don't respect it either. He's also I was looking at the stats wrong. Never mind. This is what happens when I'm solo and I don't have Eric, so I can stare at the stats and then know exactly what I'm going to say. Ryan Repair, 10 minutes, 2 points. Cool. Young Hansen, 5 minutes, 2 points. Cool. Had an offensive rebound, didn't have a turnover, and had a steal. It was 1 for 1. Best game of his career? Maybe. Javonte Cook, 5 minutes of garbage time. And he managed to go 0 for 4 and have 2 turnovers. So that was really, really impressive. Really, really impressive. Anyway, that's the box score. That's who played today for your Portland Trailblazers. Next game, Utah. They got Jaren Jackson Jr. Maybe they rest guys second night of a back-to-back. Maybe they rest everybody so they can try and lose because they've won 2 games in a row. They destroyed the Kings today. 121-93. The Kings, of course, are playing nobody. They got DeMar DeRozan, who's pissed off about his situation. Can't blame him. For some reason, they won't buy him out. Don't understand. I think he's on the last year of his deal, right? So I don't get that. Devin Carter had 19 points, 4 for 13, 10 for 12 from the free throw line today. They started at Precious Achua, Maxime Reynaud, and Nick Clifford. Nick Clifford, I was just hyping you up for having 30 points. I was just hyping you up because you were one of my draft guys and you had 30 points recently. How are you going to follow that up by playing 38 minutes and going 1 for 15? How are you going to go 1 for 15? Oh my, against the Jazz of all teams. Oh my goodness, man. He did have 6 assists, 8 rebounds though, 1 for 15, that's Delano Banton territory. And then they got Doug McDermott playing off the bench. So, this was not an impressive Kings lineup. So basically my point is don't put too much stock into the Jazz winning today, I guess. But I don't know. Their starting lineup is competitive. Ace Bailey started to put together some solid games. Isaiah Collier is an assist machine. He had 14 assists tonight in 27 minutes. And he was a plus 25. And then you got Jaren Jackson Jr., Larry Markin, and Yusuf Nurkic, who's having a good year. Bryce Sensabaugh off the bench, 19 points in 24 minutes. Shoot, Cody Williams had a good game today. 9 points, 4 for 6 from the field. I've never seen a good box score from Cody Williams, but when you're playing against that Kings team and Nick Clifford's going 1 for 15, maybe it's a different story. They got Vince Williams Jr. off the bench. He was a solid vet that can do some things. So this isn't a lineup the Blazers should take easy for the Utah Jazz. We'll see who plays tomorrow because they definitely are tanking in a second night of a back-to-back. But, excuse me, I'm yawning. Who knows who plays for the Portland Trail Blazers tomorrow? Who knows if Denny plays? Who knows if Scoop plays? Robert Williams isn't going to play. The Blazers might be underdogs in this game. I don't know, depending on who's available. This would be a really rough game to lose tomorrow. The Blazers need to win tomorrow. Losing to the Jazz going into the All-Star break to end up 4 games below 500 would feel like basically the nail in the coffin in terms of chasing the 8th seed, in a way. Because then you got 3 tough games after the All-Star break. You got Denver, Minnesota again, who's had the Blazers number, and Phoenix, who's had the Blazers number. Like I'm expecting the Blazers to lose all 3 games out of the All-Star break, to be honest. So if you lose to the Utah and you're 4 games below 500, and then you lose the next 3 and you're 7 games below 500, you're probably going to struggle just to get back to 500. You're not going to get the 8th seed. Got to find a way to take care of business against the Jazz tomorrow. By the way, Portland is a 7.5-point favorite. You got Keontae George out. Maybe I'll do a sleeper pick. I don't know. Because sleeper, all season we've been talking about how they have player picks. You can put together parlays. We've shared some. But now on sleeper, you can make team picks. So you can pick the Utah Jazz to beat the Portland Trail Blazers tomorrow. So something new the sleepers rolled out. They've added to their product. You can now make team picks on Sleeper. Anyway, questions, if you have them, I'll answer them. Saw Charlene in chat. Eric's mother said she was at the game that Eric coached, Eric's son's game, said they played well. So at least one team we care about tonight played well. Said he'll be here shortly. So if he's not here in the next 10 minutes or so, I might wrap up the stream. We got another stream tomorrow, of course. And then we have the All-Star break. All-Star break is going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to that. Should I live stream Friday or Saturday? Probably would only do one night. If I'm going to stream one of those nights. Friday, isn't that the Rising Stars on Friday? And then you have All-Star Saturday night. So you have Dame in the 3-point contest. Rising Stars, you have Klingon and Young. I'll do a chapel. Anyway, vote in that chapel. I'm reading this argument in chat. We'll get back into this while you vote in the chapel while I wait for Eric, because, I'll always entice argument like this. Kenneth says, Shaden has shown improvement every year, 23 a game. I repeat, how many players can get 23 a night in the NBA at 22 years old? Come on, don't you see it, Tori? Okay, let's check Shaden Sharp's stats to see if he actually gets 23 a game. No, Shaden Sharp gets 21.4 points per game. Still a lot of points, but here's the thing that drives me crazy about Shaden Sharp arguments. Why so often do people misrepresent the truth? He doesn't average 23 a game. Scoring points is not the end-all, be-all to playing basketball, man. How good you are as a player is not just dependent upon how many points per game can I get. Or else Cam Thomas wouldn't have been bought out by the Nets. He would have been traded for 4 first-round picks. Maxway says, Tori, you need to stop being delusional. Shea is going to be an all-star. Here's the problem with you people. You never argue what I actually say. You never argue the critiques of Shea. You'll just throw out an insult and then say, he's just gonna be a star just because I say so. And then say Shea does get 23. No, I'm literally looking at his stat line. He gets 21.4. You guys are ridiculous. This is part of what drives me crazy with Shaden Sharp is his freaking fan base is so silly about things sometimes. What critiques do you have then? I don't know. I talk about him all the time. The fact that he averages more turnovers than assists. The fact that he's not an efficient scorer. He has below average efficiency every year of his career. The fact that he's still not a good defender. He's better, and he has some good off-ball moments. He has some moments he falls asleep still, but you're talking about a player who's not a positive defender, not a positive playmaker, averages more turnovers than assists, and he doesn't even really pass the ball. So it's insane that he's averaging 3 turnovers per game. And his scoring is, he has a 55 true shooting percentage. That's below league average in terms of true shooting percentage. Those are my critiques. And if you are going to be a star as an offensive player, you have to read the game at a higher level than he does. He's a scorer. But he's not a 30-point per game scorer. Cam Thomas averaged 24 points per game once. Shoot, Colin Sexton had a year he averaged 24 points per game once. Colin Sexton, in year 3, when he was 22 years old, same age as Sharp is now, averaged 24 points per game and 4.5 assists. And guess what? There's probably the same group of people there that were saying, Colin Sexton's a star. He's averaging 24 points per game and he's only 22. There's multiple guys like this that have come through and done what Sharp is doing now and didn't become stars. And everybody wants to act like, oh, you start averaging 21 per game, you're a star. Nothing else matters. And it drives me crazy. That's my critiques. So, argue, all that's backed up statistically. I'm not just sitting here making stuff up for the hell of it. See, but you guys never make serious arguments. Perfect example. What is your reply? Shea is built different. You just don't see it SMH. That's a perfect example. You guys aren't serious. You guys aren't serious. Sharp is the highest points per game for the 2022 draft, though. I just made the point that it's not just about points per game. There's much more to being a good basketball player than how many points per game you get. I just made that point, man. Sure, great, good for him. But I care about everything else. Yeah, this dude's trolling me. Tori, have you seen him dunk? Yeah, this dude's trolling me. How long ago did he join? 51 minutes ago. Yep. Oh, I should have checked his profile earlier. My bad. Rookie mistake on my part. 51 minutes ago is when I banned the guy that made his account 5 days ago. So, same dude. Dang. Normally, I catch on a little bit better than that. What gave it away was, have you seen him dunk? That reminds me of when Derek Jones Jr. was asked, why do you yell when you dunk? But thank you for representing the arguments, man. Like, yeah. Anyway. I'm just stalling for Eric to come back. Oh, there we go. We can finally stop having this conversation because Eric is finally here. Finally. You missed it, Eric. I'm getting trolled.
Oh, I was listening. Who did you ban earlier that had been an account for 5 days?
I don't even remember the name.
Yeah.
Shout out to Muvsy Hoops, $5 Canadian donation. He has a sticker. It's the pear, the blue pear looking thing. Lift and weight says keep it up. Thank you, Muvsy. I appreciate your encouragement and your donation.
Good game to miss, I take it.
Freaking awful game. Did you watch the game?
No, I listened to some of it on the radio, but didn't have a chance to watch much of it. So yeah. I was working. We had a 3.5 hour meeting at work, and then came home, go to the game, and then just put my daughter to bed. Yep.
Shut up.
I listened to the last hour though.
Yeah, no, it was an ugly game. It was just super sloppy. They can't take care of the ball, and it was a lot of unforced turnovers. Shout out to Muvsy Hoops with a $50 Canadian donation. Thank you, Muvsy. Oh my goodness, $50 Canadian dollars. But this message, I don't know where he got this from because I've never heard Muvsy talk about basketball in this way, and this is not him. This is not him. He says he's inefficient, 36th percentile true shooting percentage, turnover prone, 18th percentile CTOV. I don't even know what that is. Some turnover stat. Offers little portability, 9th percentile. I don't know what that means.
Well, what does that mean?
Bubsy, you're going to have to explain that one to me, brother. It says, and despite high load, 85th percentile, and creation, 79th percentile, it hasn't translated into efficient or scalable offensive impact. What AI did you get that from?
Yeah. David says portability. That's AI language.
Yeah. But also, there was a stat attached to that. So do we have an advanced stat called portability percentile or something now?
He donated though because he gets the. Because he gets to use AI, so because he donated.
Yeah. The thing is he's a Sharp fan, so because he's Canadian. That's funny.
What's up, Carson? Portability means if you can be plugged in or out. Okay. Wow.
Like a portable charger?
All right, that's definitely
Thank you, Bubsy, for the laughs. Thank you for the donation. Yeah, let's start analyzing players' portability, Eric.
I wonder if those are even real. I mean, it sounds real, but
yeah. We got one comment. Bill Orm's article. We talked about it last postgame show. I'm not going to talk about it today. Anyway, so you said you listened to the last hour?
Well, so I tuned in hoping to hear what had happened in this game, and all I've heard is you talk about Shaden Sharp, who didn't even play in this game, and a little bit about Krejci.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went over this game. Basically, yeah. Here's your summary. Denny, Drew, and Scoot combined for 16 turnovers. 3 of Drew's turnovers were just straight up throwing the ball out of bounds. 2 of which we drove and then tried to throw it back to the arc when somebody was moving around the arc and he threw it behind him, so it ended up going out of bounds. One was on a drive where he just somebody was guarding Blake Wesley, one pass away on the wing, stunted at Drew's dribble, so Drew tried to flick it over to him and threw it 10 feet above his head, out of bounds. And then the 4th turnover Drew had was he's bringing the ball up the court and Denny's trailing him, and he crosses half court, then flicks it back to Denny, and it's an over and back. It was one of those types of games. Denny had 5 turnovers. Drew had 6. Denny has 5 turnovers, and they weren't the typical like driving into traffic, trying to make the right play and putting himself in a tough spot because he's trying to make the right play. It was a lot of sloppiness above the arc. Lots of struggles like initiating offense. Like Scoot had some turnovers. One was like a flare pass he tried to throw that he didn't throw high enough, so the guy getting screened on the flare screen, it was Anthony Edwards, just jumped and picked the ball off. Lot of silly turnovers in this game. The refs were very inconsistent. They allowed Minnesota to play very physical. Minnesota ends up shooting 35 free throws, and the Blazers shoot 16. But Minnesota was the more physical defense today. So don't really know how that translates to the Timberwolves shooting more than twice as many free throws. But some of it was they kind of know how to play physical defense. Like Jaden McDaniels was being very physical with Denny and stuff that he'd get to the free throw line on earlier in the year. They weren't giving him that call, so that contributed to his struggles. Denny was 0 for 7 from 3. I think he's shooting the ball a little bit late in his jump. That's why he's missing short. Scoot looked really good offensively, made 3 threes. One was a really nice pull-up going left off the dribble where he went in with a 1-2 step instead of a hop, which I liked. I've talked about that in the past. Vit had a lot of points once the game was over in the fourth, but I don't understand why he's not playing more. And they scored 43 points off turnovers, which is a season high by a team across the NBA, according to chat. Because there's a lot of turnovers above the break. So that was the recap. I went through it pretty quick because, it was one of those types of games. And then I had to stall for you. I stalled with
the sharp stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, people wanted to debate it. So I'm never gonna turn down a debate when I'm waiting. But yeah, that was the recap. I'd ask your thoughts, but if you didn't watch the game, then I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, the parts I listened to, it just like the Blazers cut it down. They cut it to 2 at one point, and then the next thing they were down 16, and then down 10 at halftime.
Oh, they also got cooked by Julius Randle. I forgot that part.
Yeah,
but I'm sure you can see the box score.
Yeah.
All right. Another one. How many times can we ban the same person in one single stream? Anyway. Yeah, I mean, defensively, they weren't particularly good, but it's hard to even tell because of how many turnovers there was. But it's my issue, and I brought this up earlier in the stream, they're not doing a good enough job of guarding the three-point line, but they're also getting beat off the dribble a little bit too much. It should be one or the other. Either run guys off the line and get beat off the dribble, but don't let them have a good three-point shooting night, or, contain the dribble penetration, maybe give up some threes, and they have a good three-point shooting night. But, they're 51% from the field and 41% from three. There was multiple times where they were just attacking our closeouts and beating us off the dribble and then able to force Klingon into helping, dumping it off to go bare. But they don't shoot a ton of threes. They were 14 for 34, but 41%. I feel like teams have been shooting pretty well from the three-point line. So, yeah, you look at the free throw differential and the turnover differential and their points off turnovers and how efficient they were scoring off the turnovers and the fact that they made 41% of their threes, 51% from the field. There's nothing good to talk about from this game. Drew made some threes. Scoot was good. V had some good moments. That's literally the only good things to talk about from this game, to be honest. Oh, and Young Hansen was 1 for 1 and had a steal and had a putback dunk. So,
did he only play in garbage time?
Yep.
Or did he?
He played 5 minutes of garbage time and didn't turn over the ball. So anybody that played at all today that didn't turn over the ball gets a gold star from me. Javonte Cook played 5 minutes of garbage time and was 0 for 4 and had 2 turnovers. So good job, Young Hansen.
Yeah, nice.
Anyway, your thoughts.
I agree with you that Beat needs to play a little more. I'm not sure why that's the case. Um, it's going to be fascinating to see what they do with the roster if it is as simple as cutting Repair or a Thibault. They're relatively healthy now, but like, can you really cut the one person who's actually been available all year with Repair? Like he's like the only player on the team I think that hasn't had to sit out a game of at least the main 15 guys, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what the answer is. Maybe you don't even need City to play for a while if you're healthy after the All-Star break. So maybe you just wait until I think it's March 4th is the deadline to convert a two-way. So maybe you just wait till closer to that day and make a decision. Yeah. Also, I know this doesn't have to do with the game, but the Blazers did it again with the injury report story. I don't know if you talked about that yet.
What'd they do?
Calf soreness is now a calf strain.
Yeah. Well, soreness and strain are like the same thing. Right.
Well, it was pointed out by a certain Blazer media member that it's important that it was listed as calf soreness and not a more
Well,
serious injury.
I mean,
Pay attention to the way it's worded, and then 2 games later, it's now a calf strain. So why didn't they just start by saying it's a calf strain? I don't know. They did the same thing with Drew. So yeah, that's great. So expect Shane to miss the rest of the season then?
I don't know. Like, who knows what grade of calf strain it is? Like, we don't have context, so maybe it's a couple weeks, maybe it's a couple months.
Man, guys, can you stop in chat? Like, quit going at each other and calling each other names. It's stupid.
Chat's on one today.
And then don't freaking get mad at me when I ask you to not call each other names. It's so stupid.
Yeah. Anyway, I have really nothing left to talk about from this game. So
Yeah, we're going to do Tankathon, right? Have you done that already?
no, we need to. Marv, stop being so sensitive in chat, man. It's starting to get annoying. Anyway, yeah, let's do a Tankathon. Like, if you want me to continue having this sharp argument, we can, but you don't seem to like it, so just move on. Anyway.
Yeah, we know calf strains are tricky. It's just I'm more commenting that the Blazers changed the injury diagnosis from just like they did with Drew.
Yeah. Blazers up to 12th in terms of the lottery standings. They're half a game behind 11th. They are 2 games below Chicago for 10th. They're tied for Charlotte at 12th. So, I mean, obviously not the best odds here. You can see the movement on the left today. You're not being real. I'm being real. Let's simulate this thing. I'm gonna try not to get into any more sharp debates with the chat. And we'll scroll from the bottom. 14th, OKC via the Clippers. 13th, Charlotte. 12th, Portland. 11th, San Antonio. 10th, Chicago. 9th, Milwaukee. 8th, Dallas. 7 is Utah. 6, Clippers. And 5, Sacramento. 4 is Atlanta. 3 is Brooklyn. 2 is Washington. And at 1 is the Memphis Grizzlies, moving up 7 spots. Is Memphis being number 1 like change your calculation with the number 1 overall pick? Based on the team?
What they should draft?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't know if it changes it as much as you know, Darren Peterson just missed a game the other night due to basically him just not wanting to play against the number one team. So that's starting to creep into my.
He had an illness.
Yeah, but there was a so someone took a picture of someone near the bench doing a text, and it basically said something to the effect of um, Bill Self told him that he could either like play and play hard or just don't play at all, and he chose to not play. And yeah, so I don't know, but he's been so like every once in a while he'll just say his leg hurts or something. He's missed games because of cramps. I'm not saying it's not legit or whatever. I'm just starting to wonder if it's just he just doesn't want to risk injury because it's kind of a meaningless college situation, or if he's maybe a bit of a I don't know, just one of these soft players who only wants to play when he feels like it. I don't know, man. To me, if you're like a competitor, I mean, who wouldn't want to play against the number one team and stuff like that? I get if you're really sick, but yeah, he does, as Shady points out in chat, he is a little soft. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to make me not want to draft him first because he's so freaking good. It's just like I don't know. You look at Dybonsa and Boozer; those guys aren't missing games. And I know it's different if you're not hurt or whatever, but those guys, I just feel like are going to play or want to play, and I don't know. It's just starting to creep into my calculation a little bit. Like, what's the mental makeup of this guy?
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. But how much of it is like people in his camp or in his ear that are the wrong people, and how much of it is like, dang, this dude might hate basketball. This dude might not really like playing basketball.
Yeah.
But see, like the one time I made the mistake with that was Anthony Edwards, and of course he's
Right.
been Anthony Edwards, so I'm like trying not to get too caught up in that, but
So my never matters is what if he's sick and hurt for real, and that's why I'm not letting it be the end all be all. Like I'm just saying there's way too many games he's just sat out this year to completely ignore it. It's starting to creep in a little bit,
yeah, and I can't blame you. I mean,
especially when it's all close. Like right, if it's last year's draft, um, or the Klingon draft, I mean I guess not last year. I'm 2 years ago. If it's the Ricochet draft, like you just take them no matter what and take your
yeah,
chances, right?
yeah.
So you don't argue. But this year, there's three guys you can argue are all number one picks, and then you look at like what Kingston Flemings has done all year, and that it's like, wow, this guy's a gamer too. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not saying I would not, I wouldn't take him one or with a top three pick, but I think you do have to evaluate that when you start to do your homework on him and start to like when teams interview him and stuff like that. I do think it's going to be important that they get to the bottom of whether he's got the right mindset or if this was just kind of a fluky year, or like I said, if he, it is possible when you're expected to be a top pick in the draft. I mean, there's no reason to risk it, even if you have a minor cramp or feeling sick. You don't have to do it. But I'm also a competitor, Tori, and I know you are too. Like, there's no way you're missing that game with a little illness against Arizona, right? Like if you were in that situation. So that's all I'm saying is like you do have to wonder if this guy is like just playing basketball to be famous, or if he like truly wants to play the game and be competitive and stuff.
I would take Cooper Flag number one in this class.
Yeah. Do you
Like
remember
they're
when those people were saying he'd be
yeah.
fourth for sure? Yeah.
Yeah, and not even like hindsight, he's looked really good in the NBA lately. Like as a prospect, I think a better he was a better prospect coming into the NBA than Peterson, DeBonsa, and Boozer. Because with Peterson, if Peterson had like a love for the game and like the right mental makeup, I would quite possibly take him ahead of Cooper Flag. But with those red flags, like I'd take Flag instead. With DeBonsa, like he can really score the ball, but Flag's like defense and passing on top of the scoring is what kind of separates him. And then Boozer, I think, has a really high floor, but I don't know if he's like has the potential to be a top 10 player in the league or a top 15 player in the league.
His floor is so freaking high, though.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just like I don't know if he can be a superstar. Where Cooper Flag, I'm very confident in him being able to become a superstar. So I would take Flag. It's just funny because there are people saying, "Oh, he'd be the fifth or sixth pick." I think like Caleb Wilson has a really high floor, but it's kind of similar to Boozer in that way for me.
Just to be clear, we're talking about Darren Peterson, not Shaden Sharp, if that's what you're implying, Delatero.
Yeah. Fleming's might have a little bit more outlier upside than Boozer and Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, I think so too.
I could be talked into Fleming's ahead of Wilson, depending on the team. Oh man. But Fleming's or Wagler, definitely Fleming's. I mean, Wagler's been really good, but
Yeah.
the translation questions for me is like A, he's not particularly athletic, especially at the NBA level, and then B, like doesn't really seem like a good enough ball handler to overcome that. Like he can really shoot and then is crafty, like uses his body at the college level. I just don't know if his game fully translates to being a star level scorer at the NBA level. Like he'll be able to knock down shots. I wouldn't be shocked if he becomes a 18 to 20 point per game scorer, but if he struggles to separate as an on-ball guy at the NBA level, then that's going to be an issue. And like the classic cases, like Luka wasn't the most athletic, but Luka like moves very sharply and like handles the ball really well, and is 6'7", 6'8". Mind Over Matter says I've seen a lot of Wagler concerns because he is 6'6" and has yet to dunk. Yeah, but I mean, shoot, put today's Luka in college. How often would he dunk? He'd get 70 points per game, and probably none of them would be dunks. I'm probably over exaggerating that, but yeah, like I'm not worried about him. I wouldn't worry about him because he hasn't dunked. I'd worry about him just like if he can't create space, he's not the strongest guy. Like the translation of the scoring to the next level. I really like him as a shooter, but he's not like surefire guy. And there's a lot of good prospects. Mikal Brown, did you see his game recently?
No, I missed that one.
He had a game where he was 10 for 16 from 3.
Oh, finally.
He scored 45 points against NC State in 34 minutes. He was 14 for 23 from the field, 10 for 16 from 3, 7 for 7 from the line. Had 9 boards too.
I did see that,
yeah. Yeah. And they've been saying like, oh, he's been playing through injury. But 10 for 16 from 3 for a dude that was shooting like 27% or whatever it is. Now he's up to 32% from 3. Like he's super athletic. I need to watch a little more of him, but like he's a fun, maybe not super athlete, but he's a good athlete, moves well. But one of those guys that I need to watch a little bit more. I've watched a decent amount of Wagler and a decent amount of the other guys we've discussed.
Yeah.
And then Nate Ament, he's been playing better, but it's like similar. It's a similar conversation with translation and like not the best athlete and super skinny. Like if he kind of gets by on size plus skill, but he's only shooting 33% from three, averages more turnovers than assists at the college level. Like he has translation questions for sure. Upside, I guess, because of what he could. He has some skill and fluidity at 6'10", but it's very like hypothetical at the next level.
Yeah.
And I like felt that way when I watched him in Hoop Summit, because I actually went to Hoop Summit, so that's super close, and just like this guy's not really separating much and not really doing much at Hoop Summit for a guy that I was really looking forward to watching because he's fourth ranked player in his class. Yeah. Plan on watching more college basketball over the All-Star break for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Tankathon.
Yeah.
Do you agree with this take? Boozer doesn't really do anything off the dribble. He's mainly just sits in the post or shoot threes with defensive versatility. Boozer should be a 4.
I feel like that's oversimplifying it a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that in chat or is it?
Yeah, I was in chat.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Every time I think it's like that, he does stuff that makes me like, okay, he's not like that at all.
Yeah.
He's a good passer. He can drive off the dribble. He's done it several times this year. I just think he doesn't have to that much because he's so good at those other things. But
I think he'll be able to create. Yeah, I think he'll be able to create. It's because like he's, going to be 19 entering the league. I think that's something he'll figure out is like how to create off the dribble and have more of a bag, so to say. I just don't know like if he can get to the point where he's a top 10 player in the league. Because to be a top 10 player in the league, you have to be a very high level creator.
Mike says it could be Duke too, and absolutely. Like we know, like I mean, he's the man on that team, but like Duke's been this way for decades. Like they have so many good players, so many draft prospects. It's not like if he was on let's just say he went to Washington or something and was a Husky. I mean, like I guess they have Steinbach, but he'd be the guy there. So I was trying to pick a random school. I picked one with another NBA player on it. But you know what I mean? Like he would. I felt that way with like all of their prospects lately. It's just hard to tell when you're playing with such good talent around you and where you don't have to do as much as you might have to do if you're on like Mikal Brown's situation in Louisville. He has to be more of a scorer than he would have to be if he was playing on Duke.
Agreed. Oh, collab cam. Come back. At least you got collab cammed right when you stopped talking. It was like perfect
wasn't
timing.
In the middle, yeah.
Yeah, it was very perfect timing. My concern with Boozer is can he play the 5? He's not a 5. He's a big 4. He's like a big man that plays the 4. But yeah, I think he's a little short for the 5 and not athletic enough to make up for it. But yeah, I like Flemings a lot. Still need to dive in on some prospects here.
Yeah.
But I feel like Braylon Mullins is going to be one of my guys in this class.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. The thing is like, who's this year's Cedric Coward? Because this time last year, I don't know if I'd ever heard of Cedric Coward. I think at this point I had, but like, that was a fresh
I mean, it already
name.
got hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think I definitely had, but there's always names that pop up kind of out of nowhere and then become players. So I'm wondering, every year I wonder who's going to come out of nowhere. Who's somebody if I'm the Blazers and I have a second round pick, somebody that I would draft for a team need.
For the Blazers?
Yeah.
Who's that?
It addresses our biggest weak spot offensively. Can you guess who it is?
Well, I would, if you hadn't just said Mullins, I would have said him, but.
No, second round pick.
Oh, second round.
Yeah, second.
I'm not sure.
Milan Momcilovic.
Oh, really?
6'8". He shoots 7.5 threes per game. He's shooting 51.7% from three.
Yeah.
He's shooting 90% from the free throw line. Like, he's not going to be an off-the-dribble guy or anything, but you just want a role-player shooter that's an absolute sniper, and he's 6'8". Like, you draft him, and, he's your Sam Hauser or something. Yeah. A 6'8" guy shooting over 50% on 7.5 threes per game. Like, I'm not even going to think more than that. Like, if I'm the Blazers, I'm 45th, 50th, like that sort of pick. Unless there's somebody with a lot more upside on the board, like you get somebody that can address a need with that sort of pick.
Yeah.
I'd take him over Caravan. I've never been a Caravan fan, although Caravan's fine with a second, I guess. Yeah. Where's Cameron Carr going? No idea. I also, with the Blazers pick, like, I still like the idea of Kareem Lopez. Like his his stock's kind of tanked, and I see a lot of boards have him late first, but I still think he's borderline lotto.
Who's that?
Kareem Lopez. He's playing 22 minutes a game right now, shooting 3 threes a game at 44%. And has like some off the dribble stuff. 6'8". The good news is there's not a whole lot of centers, especially drop bigs, for Cronin to draft this year. So might get something new if we don't make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Carr's as high as 8 now. That's a little too high. He's a fun player, but I think 8's a little high. Oh, Bradenbury is 16th on Tankathon now. Here it comes. Yeah, I think after the All-Star break, we'll do our first big board. Finally. Like, All-Star break, no Blazer games, give us time. Also, chat wants me, and this can include you, if you want, to stream on Friday for Rising Stars.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my message, but Saturday is Valentine's Day. I didn't know if you're.
Oh yeah, Saturday is Valentine's Day. Yeah, okay.
Might
yeah,
not be
Friday.
the best idea to.
Yeah.
For you and your situation.
Yeah, my girl will probably want to watch the 3-point contest with me and watch Dame in the contest. So, yeah, good date night right there. So, yeah, Friday. That's the plan. I think Friday we'll see. Because we got Young and Klingon. What time's the first Rising Stars game, though?
I'm not sure.
flags out for Rising Stars. That sucks. Yeah, they don't list it on NBA scoreboard. Chat, if you know the time, let me know. The first Rising Stars game. Hopefully it's in the evening. Otherwise, might not be able to. We'll see. Anyway. We'll have another post game tomorrow. I said the stream might be shorter and it went over 2 hours. So here we are. Anything else, Eric?
It might be late too, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it might be like 9:30, FYI. 9, are you going to be, when are you going to be ready?
I could probably be ready by 9.
Okay. Like 9:15 is probably the earliest that I could start it, and then you'd solo stream for a bit because I got an 8 p.m. game. 8 p.m. game. We've had 5 teams in our league, so we've only had 6 and 7 p.m. games. We added a 6, so now we have an 8 p.m. game too. So, and my game's at 8. So, 9:15. We'll tomorrow. I want to do grades for the first. It's called the first half, but it's like the first 2/3 of the season. Give out player grades and focus on what players need to improve over the last third of the season. What we want to see out of them. It's a good point to kind of reevaluate things. We'll of course talk about it'll kind of be like a recap of the first 56 it'll be 56 games. Of course, we'll recap the Jazz game, but hopefully we beat them by 30 and don't have a ton to talk about. Anyway, leave a like on your way out here. Subscribe if you're new. Anything else, Eric?
Thanks everyone for watching. Sorry I couldn't make it earlier, and hope everyone has a good night. Hopefully the Blazers in their pre-All-Star break portion of the season with a win tomorrow in Utah.
Yeah. You chose the right game to miss, man. You could not have chosen a better game to miss. This was disgusting basketball.
Happy for that.
But at least, at least Scoot showing some good things. Krejci got some buckets there late. He needs to play more. Sucked to see Denny struggle, but we'll, hopefully he's able to get some rest over the All-Star break outside of his All-Star game. I had somebody say they saw him wince after the first play of the game. So, yeah, he's definitely still being bothered by that back. Just unfortunate that he has to go through that. But, yeah, hopefully the All-Star break is exactly what he needs, even if he plays on Sunday. Anyway, we're out of here. Shout out to Sleeper. Hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.